Okay, everybody, let's just do another example here, another set of examples where we're going to use these shifts and translations to plot some function. And so right here I'm showing you on the graph what the function f of x looks like. F of x is a graph. Don't know exactly what the function would describe it, but we know that this graph passes through points like -4, -2, -2, -2, +2, +2, and 4, 2. So we might ask, well, what would the graph of f of x minus 2 plus 1 look like? So let's do this in blue right here. What does this say? Well, this says that for every x value that we have, we're going to shift right by 2. And this plus 1 tells us to shift everything up by 1. So what does that mean? Well, let's take some of these points that we know that we have right here. If I have the point -4, -2, if I shift it to the right by 2 points, 1, 2, and up 1, the corollary point to that would be the point -2, -1. If I took this point at -2, -2, and shifted to the right 2 and up 1, I would be at the point 0, -1. If I take this coordinate point here at 2, 2, and I go to the right 2 and up 1, and then take my point at 4, 2 and go to the right 2 and up 1, I find that my new graph's point, plot this correctly, get rid of some of the clutter, will be right here. So what does this graph look like? Well, let's go ahead and join the coordinates here together. Looks like what we're going to have, and let's make this a line right here, and put the color as blue. We're going to go from -2 to 1. I'm going to make another line right here that goes from -1, 0, -1 to 4, 3. And we're going to go from 4, 3 to 6, 3. And so our graph at every single point right here has been shifted in such a way that each point is shifted to the right by 2 and up 1. To the right by 2 and up by 1. Right? Now you can see where those corresponding points are. All right, well, this is one kind of shift, right? This is what that would look like, and all we're doing is just changing the position of the graph. What if we change the shape or the direction of the graph? Well, let's take on the function y equals -2 f of x. What does this mean? Well, in fact, there's two things going on right here. The negative that shows up in front of the 2 means that we're going to have a reflection. So whatever this shape looks like, it's going to be reflected. And in this case, because the negative occurs outside of the function, it's going to be reflected vertically. The other thing that's going on right here is that we're multiplying by 2, and this is a stretch by a factor of 2. So that means the following right here. Let's take a point like -4, -2. If we start out with the point -4, -2, then what's going to happen in this function is that we're going to take the y value and we're going to change it by multiplying it by -2. So in other words, if you want to think about it this way, our graph right now, f of x passes at the points -4, -2. But this, in blue, says multiply by -2 to reflect and stretch vertically. So we're going to multiply that y value times -2, and we're going to get +4 as the new point in our shifted graph. So instead of passing through -4, 2, it'll pass through -4, 4. Let's look at some of these other points right here. We know that this graph passes to the point -2, -2. To get the new graph, we multiply that y value by -2, and we get +4 this time. So -2, +4 is a new point on this graph. Our old graph went through the point 2, 2. So we're going to multiply that y value times -2 to get our new y value. And in this case, it's going to be -4. So it'll pass through the point 2, -4 instead of 2, 2. And at our point +4 from the old graph, where x equals +4, y equals +2, we multiply that by -2 as well. And you notice that all we're really doing is just changing the y value that we get by this factor, -2. And you see that what happens right here is that this graph has now changed its shape. Right, and we're going to put in a line right here in the new color. And it's going to go from -4, 4 to -2, 4, -2, 4 to -4, and then 2, -4 to 4, -4. And the thing that's happened right here, you'll notice, is that this whole graph has just been reflected vertically and then stretched, made to look longer than the original graph in the vertical direction as well. And so we're done.